Good afternoon. It's Friday afternoon, May 3rd, 2024. We have the development of excessive heat here in the United States about to take place, but more importantly, it's the synoptic weather setup that's behind the heat, because that will be an indicator that, first of all, this is going to be a recurring heat in most likelihood, and in addition, it's just going, the numbers are impressive. We have a heat dome. That's the synoptic weather setup behind it. It's not a Baltimore 90-degree heat that's been occurring over the past couple of days, which broke a record in Baltimore, something which is the result of just some south winds, sunshine, perhaps some even compressional warming. You might even have some downslope winds that also were responsible for the heat in Baltimore. But this is an actual dome of heat, 591 decimeter, which is centered over Mexico, and it's expanding next week, expands into the Gulf of Mexico along with portions of Texas. The humidity skyrockets for portions of eastern Texas, such as Corpus Christi, Texas, and along with Galveston, Houston, Texas. Corpus Christi, Texas seems to usually be the most humid spot from what I've seen. That's when we're going to have the dew points go into the upper 70s sometime between Tuesday and Thursday. National Weather Service tells us Wednesday and Thursday. It's not the heat, it's not the individual days itself that makes this so impressive. It's really the fact that it's a heat dome, which in that part of our country, this time of the year, heat domes are recurring. Once they occur, although it will go away, we're early in the season, we're before the blackberry winter of May 11th, so it goes away by the end of next week, but heat domes are expected to return, and this is just an indicator of what we're set up for. Heat domes will return with higher intensity as the sun is stronger the next time around. It's the exact same spot. We had it occurring last year. The dew points, again, upper 70s, possibly higher, with temperatures going well into the 90s for Corpus Christi, Texas. That puts our heat indices past 110 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 43 degrees Celsius. 35 degrees Celsius will be common. That's mid-90s. Record heat expected for places like New Orleans, Louisiana. We're going to have a day which might come close to the record or record heat even for St. Louis, Missouri, despite the fact it's only going to be around 90 degrees, which doesn't even sound so hot anymore. But Zapata, Texas at 110 degrees Fahrenheit on Thursday. Again, that's 43 degrees Celsius, along with Rio Grande Village, Texas, which many times that takes the honors for being the hottest city in this country, even hotter than Death Valley, California many times, as temperatures go into the 100 and teens for next week. So 591 decimeter heat dome, that's pretty similar to what we've seen as the first heat domes of the season the past couple of years. The cold front moves through later in the week. We do get, actually, the upper Midwest might see some wintry precipitation over the next 10 days, says the European computer model. When the heat returns, so forecasters tell us, this is clearly stated in the Washington Post, which, you see, the thing about the Washington Post, not only do they have excellent forecasters, they're also in touch with just numerous national weather services around the country, and they report from those national weather services as well. And they've even reported from AccuWeather. So when they have weather articles there, it's jam-packed with weather information sometimes. They tell us that forecasters are forecasting not just a hot summer this year, they're forecasting something unique, something you do not see in a forecast, in a long-term forecast. A long-term forecast, they're forecasting this summer to be the hottest summer on record for this country, for the United States. The question is, how could you make a forecast like that? You see, there's a general principle we have when it comes to long-term forecasting, says meteorologist Dave Murray. He makes long-term forecasts. We never forecast extremes because you can't forecast extremes. But here's what that means. The two summers in the past, which have been the hottest on record, 1936, the hottest summer on record for the United States, with an average temperature of 74 degrees. So, that means you have That's the average between the nighttime and the daytime of all the cities, 74 degrees. We tied that in the year 2021 at 74 degrees. But both summers had a freak occurrence which brought up those temperatures. So 2021, the Pacific Northwest heat wave was just something totally phenomenal. A freak occurrence. And the Dust Bowl year of 1936 was a freak occurrence for the Midwest. It would seem like the forecast this summer will be the hottest summer on record. One would also have to be forecasting that there would be a freak occurrence. But you can't forecast a freak occurrence because nobody knows if there's going to be a freak occurrence or not. So what's the forecast based upon? Well, it's likely based upon the fact that we have a marine heat wave that actually developed last year, but the ocean water temperatures are only intensifying. Behind all this, I believe, is a marine heat wave. You know, last year we were saying that the ocean water temperatures were the highest they've ever been in the world, and we had already a marine heat wave that developed in April, and it really intensified over the course of the summer. I think it was Everglades National Park off of Florida. The water temperatures in the summer, there was a time where it hit 102 degrees. The Persian Gulf is no longer necessary. Last summer, we had just really hot water temperatures right here by the Gulf of Mexico. As a result, we had heat advisory criteria in Miami, Florida, which, by the way, is not so common. It's almost heat advisory usually, but it doesn't reach the heat. It's humid and as hot as it gets there. Last year, it was a whole new level due to the very high water temperatures produced higher dew point air. And that's when you got the heat index above 105, above 110. Puerto Rico had continuous excessive heat warnings in effect throughout the summer. So what happened to these really warm ocean water temperatures? Did they ever go away? And they have not. If you look at the chart, we left off December 2023 with the warmest ocean water temperatures on record, and we entered January 2024 with even warmer water temperatures than January 2023, and the water temperatures this year, 2024, continue to be higher than what they were last year. So as high as we say they were last year, those water temperatures are even higher this year. There's a couple reasons why the water temperatures are so high. Part of it, by the way, is a mystery. The Washington Post wrote about this a year ago, and the part of it is what the surface all the way down in the bottom of the ocean. This is included in it. That's the mystery. Part of it is a mystery. You'll hear some other explanations. The meteorological explanation, the one that sticks out, is the El Nino situation, but there's more to it than just that. Climatologists have other explanations. There's more to it than just that as well. We have an El Nino. The El Nino brought those water temperatures up. The El Nino is expected to be dying down, and we're going to be turning into a La Nina weather pattern, but the warm ocean water temperatures left over from El Nino continue. Ocean water temperatures are a major driving force in the weather across the world, and especially places which are directly affected by the high humidity from these ocean water temperatures, which will affect the heat indices along the Gulf Coast. Not only that, all of that air moves up north. Here's another thing we have going on this year, and this is something that just happened. It just happened over the past week, but it looks like it's continuing. You get already a feel for what the pattern is going to be over the summer already by what's happening this past week. So usually we have a front that situates itself somewhere between Chicago and St. Louis throughout the springtime. Chicago's to the north of the front, St. Louis is to the south of the front. What's really the driving force behind the front is the jet stream, okay? The jet stream is also the driving force behind the front. The front is the driving force behind the jet stream. They go hand in hand. This jet stream this year, it's become clear that the jet stream is taking a further north. It's riding along an area further north. That doesn't mean it's going to stay like that necessarily for the summer, but there is a feeling that it would. So you have the jet stream coming further north. That means the heat that usually makes it up to about St. Louis, Missouri. As meteorologist Tom Skilling says, there's a summertime climate change somewhere between Chicago and St. Louis. But if that jet stream is able to make it up north, the heat expands past St. Louis past Hannibal. And what we also have going on this year is there's been very little ice on Lake Michigan, which means the lake water temperatures are going to have no issue heating up at all. So all of those lake breezes, we're still going to get them, but those water temperatures are going to rise quicker. And that's the theme over here. By all of the water, ocean, Atlantic Ocean, Pacific Ocean, Lake Michigan, the water temperatures are going to be up. That's going to help be the driving force of hot air, humid air. But here's another thing. The other thing is La Nina. During La Nina years, heat domes, a high pressure ridge tends to develop in the middle part of the country, also associated with a drought. One example, 1999, and plenty of other examples. That's what's going to do it over here. So eventually here in the Midwest, this hot air, the hot air last year never made it, barely made it, at least into the Chicago area. It took a while before it made it into Chicago. The consistency never made it into the Chicago area, and the consistency rarely even made it into the St. Louis area. An explanation behind the forecasters that are forecasting the hottest summer on record here in the U.S. is the combination of this high pressure ridge, which usually develops over mid-America, associated with a drought, associated with La Nina years. Very high ocean water temperatures associated with El Nino. And in this case, high water temperatures, some of it is not even associated with El Nino. It's a marine heat wave. That's even warmer this year than it was last year. What we already see, the indicators that these things look like they will be coming true is happening this week as our very first dome of heat makes it here into the U.S., bringing dangerous heat indices of temperatures higher than 120 degrees. People should be aware that the National Weather Service this year has come up with a new method to advertise heat dangers, and people should look into that. I believe it's a color-coded system. It's something that's been used in the desert Southwest for a while. It's now going to be used in the Midwest as well. It will be more efficient at communicating the dangers of heat and what to do for heat safety. We're going to add one more thing here. Could the forecast be a bust? Of course, the forecast could be a bust. Here's one scenario of how it could happen. The hurricane season is expected to be not just above normal, but possibly a record-breaking hurricane year. The hurricanes generally start developing in late August. What holds them back from developing beforehand is the Sahara dust that gets put into the atmosphere. The Sahara dust blows from Africa into the United States. The Sahara dust actually helps produce rain showers. By doing that, it prevents larger storm systems from developing. Once that Sahara dust is no longer there, or it becomes minimal, which is about mid to late August, that's when those hurricanes start to develop at full force. It's those hurricanes, according to many forecasters, it's those hurricanes that break up heat domes. Should hurricane season start earlier, the heat domes would break up earlier. That's one possible scenario of how the summer could end up cooler. The other thing is that we've had some really intense volcanoes that have gone off that will be causing global cooling, but that's likely not to happen until probably next year. Its impact due to the aerosols that it puts into the upper atmosphere, which actually blocks out some of the sun. The ashes that some volcanoes could do that. There's usually a delayed effect. For example, June 1991, there was a volcano. It produced a really cool 1992 summer. So that likely will impact the weather for next year, but not this year. It's just too close. If it does impact, it would likely be next year. Thank you for listening. I wish everybody a wonderful Shabbos. Have a wonderful weekend. Have a wonderful week. Stay safe. Again, there's really intense heat, which will be moving into the United States this week. But the first round is short-lived. a cold front comes in and cools things off by the end of the week. It's brutal, but it's only for 1, 2, or 3 days. And later on in the summer, forecasters do expect a return of this heat, as it usually does, along with an expansion, which we'll speak about it then. Again, thank you for listening. Have a wonderful week. You've been listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. This podcast can be found on almost every platform where podcasts are available. You're listening to Weather with Enthusiasm. We have a powerhouse typhoon which has developed off in the Pacific Ocean. Extreme heat continues over the desert Southwest. A big shockaroo to many of you. This is especially true in regards to what's going to be going on in Alaska. We have parts of the world that are so hot right now. Temperatures are expected to go into the low 130s. What also makes the situation absolutely spectacular over there is the enormous differences between night and day. We have a remarkable weather pattern change that's going to be taking place over the next few days. We're going from one extreme to the next extreme. Small soft hail is falling with the storm. There's a possibility that snow squalls may develop. 27.1 barometric pressure. Feet of snow are falling in Japan when there's intense weather. That's a time of celebration. Just Google Weather with Enthusiasm and they're all going to come up.